Today we're going to be looking at the brand new Olympus E-M1 Mark III, and this is a really impressive camera. And actually, coming from someone who doesn't shoot Olympus that much, I really enjoyed having about a week to actually test this camera out and really try out all the things that it offers. So this is certainly aimed at professionals. It sits alongside the E-M1X as a pro camera in the range. And you can tell as soon as you pick it up, this is definitely made for pro photographers. It feels really nice in the hands, but it's still small, compact, lightweight, which makes it kind of agile and versatile enough to be used for all kinds of different things, whether you are heading out to do landscapes, whether you're doing portraits in a studio, whether you're doing street photography even. This camera would be lovely to use for all that kind of stuff. Of course, you've got that high image quality, you've got the extreme reliability that you might expect from this kind of Ranger camera. Fast, it's got that super fast AF as well, and loads of creative features. And I'd say that one of the main takeaways for me from using this camera is just how much it's geared towards ease of use and making your life as a professional photographer much easier. So let's just dive into some of the spec. Let's just dive into everything we're going to talk about, and then we can get on to what makes this camera just so useful. You know, all the little bits that just make it easy to use. So up first, we've got that nice 20 megapixel sensor. It's a micro four thirds sensor, which means it's able to keep the camera nice and small and lightweight, but still get that awesome image quality. And then you've got the TruePic 9 processor in there as well, which just makes the whole camera feel incredibly fast, whether you're talking about menus, setting up things like Live ND, all kinds of things. It just feels very quick to actually use. Now, in terms of image quality, I thought it looked superb. The colors look really nice. I was just overall really happy with the dynamic range and things like that. I thought it looked really good. But something that I was pleasantly surprised about was how good it is for low light. And I think that might be partly to do with the new processor. It just seems to handle higher ISO values much better, and you get those nice clean images, even at something like 3200 or even up to 6400. You get nice kind of clean looking images. It just handles that really well. And that speed that you get from the TruePic 9 processor also extends through to things like autofocus. So it's an extremely fast autofocus system. It feels very quick when you're using it. And it's also very accurate. Whether I was shooting landscape, whether I was then shooting portrait and using the eye detection and things like that, whether I was shooting all kinds of things, I was nailing the focus every time. So it's got 121 phase detection AF points, and you can actually go in and change the size and the shape of your AF points. So it's super customizable as to how you want to do it. So if you want to track a bird kind of across, you can actually set your AF points to be horizontal across the screen. It's just a very nice way of working. It's one of those kind of things that it's a quality of life improvement that we've seen on things like the E-M1X, which just make it easier as a photographer to get exactly what you want. And following on from that, actually, there's a new joystick on the back of the camera, which just makes it easier again to adjust the AF points on the camera. Now, the speed that I've been mentioning throughout, courtesy of the new TruePic 9 processor, also extends through to the continuous shooting modes, which is super quick. So you can do 18 frames per second with the AF and AE tracking, or 60 frames per second with AF and AE in the lock mode. That is incredibly fast, and it means that anyone wanting to shoot kind of wildlife or sport or really anything fast moving, that is going to give you a lot of options for how you want to do it. Something else which is actually pretty much unprecedented in terms of autofocus is the starry sky AF in the camera. Now, this is something that allows you to actually use autofocus if you want to take photos of the night sky, of stars. Now, normally, of course, if you've ever been able to take photos of stars, you'll know that you generally use manual focus. You'll actually go in, you'll try and zoom in to get the closest you can to the star, and then focus until the star is the smallest point of the screen. And sometimes you can get back after having done a whole night of shooting and the shots are just slightly off. It's just slightly blurry. Oh, and it's so frustrating. But here, Olympus have actually added a starry sky autofocus mode, which allows you to use autofocus to focus on the stars. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't test it out because as is, it's winter in Britain and there's just cloud forever. Rain, sure, but cloud just everywhere. So I couldn't actually go out and test this with the stars. But that is a huge thing for anyone wanting to do astrophotography or nighttime landscape or anything like that. That is going to make such a big difference, because that means you're going to nail those stars every single time. Now, sticking with improved autofocus for a second, the actual face and eye detection have both been improved. It's actually able to detect smaller faces in the frame, so when someone's standing further away, and certainly when I was shooting portraits, this was working pretty much flawlessly. You know, it's exactly what you want. Nails it onto the eye, and then you're just taking all the photos you want. And then it's just down to you to nail the composition. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is all stuff that just makes it easier to use for a photographer. So things like the starry sky autofocus, things like the customizable autofocus points. For me, the biggest thing here was actually just how easy the camera was making it for me to take photos. And that's then extended into some of the different modes that you can actually use. So there's a new handheld high-res shot mode that you can use. So there's been tripod high-res modes before, where you have to have the camera on the tripod, and it's actually going to take multiple images and then kind of stitch them together for a really high resolution image. But now you can do this handheld. And I tried this out once on purpose and once by accident, and it is amazing how well it works. It provides you the 50 megapixel image, and honestly, I'm so surprised by how good it is, especially once when I took the image by accident. So essentially, like I say, it's going to take a number of images and then stitch them together into a higher resolution shot, giving you a 50 megapixel image. And this is really only possible because of the image stabilization in the camera. This is some of the best image stabilization I have ever used. It's actually listed as the world's best image stabilization. It's up to 7.5 stops of IS, which is incredible. It means you really can use a slower shutter speed while you're taking photos. And it does enable this handheld high-res shot. So for example, this photo, where I've got the squirrel kind of poking out from the tree, I went to take the photo, I just noticed he was there, went to take the photo, forgot that I'd left it on the handheld high-res shot because I'd actually just been doing that just before. And so the camera took the 8 images, I think it is, and stitched them together without me even realizing it was going to do it. So I wasn't deliberately holding my hands steady or anything like that. And it's come out really sharp. It's come out really sharp. And that's because of that image stabilization stabilizing the camera. It is incredible. And it also extends through to video as well. It also makes shooting handheld video a lot easier. And certainly in terms of video, this camera is absolutely a decent hybrid system. So you've got 4K at 30 frames a second, you've got full HD at 120 frames a second. That's kind of stuff that you would expect these days. You know, most cameras have that kind of capability now, but it's the image stabilization that really makes such a big difference here. You know, it makes shooting handheld video a breeze. It almost comes down to kind of gimbal-like movements. It's really incredible. And of course, you've got OM log in there as well to give you a wider dynamic range while you're shooting the video. Now, sticking this kind of ease of use pro feel to the camera for a second, something else which I think is just fantastic and makes it so easy as a photographer to go and take long exposure shots is the live ND feature in the camera. Now, we saw this in the E-M1X, but something about it feels easier in this camera. It just feels easier to use. And essentially is using that super fast processor to process images into a long exposure image. So you can actually get that smoothed out long exposure water or clouds in the sky without having an ND filter on your lens. It is fantastic, and it's so easy and quick to set up, and it's great for lenses that it's difficult to attach an ND filter to. So something like the 7 to 14mm is really hard to get an ND filter for that because of the way the lens kind of protrudes and things like that. But here, using the live ND, it works fantastically. And to be honest, I can't really tell the difference between one with the live ND or one with an actual ND filter on the lens, except actually for the color cast. There's no color cast because there's no actual filter. Couple that with the live view boost that you can have on the rear screen, where you can actually see the effect of a long exposure photo before you've even taken it, and you can absolutely compose a great long exposure photo, including at night when you might be using a long exposure to capture the stars. You use that live view boost, and we're circling back around to the Starry Sky AF now. Use the live view boost with the Starry Sky AF, and you can actually see what your photo is going to look like before you take it, which is huge. That means you're focusing on the stars. You can see what it's going to look like before you take it, which means you can set up your composition, as opposed to what I often find I'm doing when I'm taking star shots, starry kind of landscape shots, is taking a photo, Okay, that's where the Milky Way is. Right, adjust my composition, take a photo. Oh, okay, I need to just, right, let's adjust this, take a photo. Now I'd be able to set up my whole composition with no issues. Shame that I wasn't able to test that one out. Shame about the clouds. So let's talk a little bit about the build of the camera as well, because actually this feels really nice. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, they've added a joystick to the back of the camera. So it's easier to select a focus point. I find it easier to navigate menus with the joystick as well, as opposed to using the D-pad. Of course, the D-pad is still there if you do want to use it. But other than that, the grip on the camera feels fantastic. It's very, very ergonomic and it's very, very comfortable. The camera itself is not that heavy. It feels nice, it's got that weight that makes it feel like it's good quality, but it's not that heavy, which means it's super easy to just carry around all day. And with that grip, I would have no problem with shooting with this for a long period of time. Of course, it's dust-proof, splash-proof, freeze-proof, as you'd probably expect from an Olympus camera like this, from a pro camera. You know, Olympus are big on the kind of reliability part of it, and absolutely that is the case here as well. I actually shot a lot in the rain with zero issues. You know, just it happens to be that when I had it, it was a week of cloud and rain and stuff like that, so I was out in the rain quite a bit, no issues at all. There's also USB-C charging, which will be massively welcome news to a lot of people. I know I pretty much only charge my camera like that now, so that's perfect. It also means it can charge from a power bank while shooting. There's dual card slots, UHS 2 and UHS 1, and of course, the viewfinder. This is a high-speed 120 frames a second, smooth, high-resolution viewfinder. Looks really, really, really good. The one criticism I would have of the whole thing, because I know you guys want me to include some criticism, so the one thing I would have, because I'm struggling to find something here, I don't shoot Olympus that much, and this has been eye-opening, but the one criticism I would have for the viewfinder is that the blacks are maybe a little bit faded. The black level in the viewfinder is a little bit faded compared to where I maybe would want it to be. But to be honest, you adjust within sort of 20-30 seconds of using it, and then you just forget about it. I would struggle. I've been trying to think of something negative to say. It's difficult. It's a difficult one. This camera, I wasn't expecting it to like it as much as I have, but I have liked this a lot. Ultimately, it feels like a pro camera to hold, to shoot with, and with the results that it gives you. It's an incredibly impressive number of features that make so many genres of photography a joy to shoot. You know, that is, as I've said a few times now, that's the main takeaway here with this camera, is just how easy it is to use, how much in the camera is geared towards making the photographer's life easier, which I think is fantastic. I think it's a fantastic way to go about things. Whether you're, you know, an astrophotographer and you want to use that Starry Sky AF and the live view boost, whether you're a landscape photographer, then you've got the live ND. You know, the autofocus has been massively improved. So for portraits and stuff like that, it's going to be great. The actual ergonomics of it with the joystick, the actual feel of it, you know, everything is geared towards being better for the photographer. You know, if you're a landscape photographer, you've got that high-res handheld shot mode. It's incredible. Get a 50 megapixel image. There's just a lot in here that is geared, like I say, towards making the photographer's life better. Now, of course, I'll pop a link down in the description so you can go and check out the camera for yourself, check out all the specs, check out all the details. If you have any questions or thoughts or anything at all, pop them down in the comments because I'd love to hear your thoughts. And of course, we'll get back to any questions ASAP. If you like the video, give it a like. Make sure to subscribe if you're new as well because we've got tutorials, we've got reviews, we've got all kinds of stuff. I will, of course, see you in the next video. And, well, as always, thanks for watching.